When we're in school, from before we even 10 years old, and decide what our favorite chocolate is, we're already being asked what we want to be when we grow up. As we move into high school, we're forced to make these decisions again as they impact studies, and we're basically being primed from the moment we can talk almost to decide what our entire life will look like. When I was younger, the internet was in its infancy, so what my friends and I wanted to be when we grew up consisted of things like police officers, doctors, nurses, hairdressers, and marine biologists. But these days, YouTuber and streamer are in that list. Kids want to be YouTubers, they want to be gaming content creators. And with good reason. The people they're watching on platforms like YouTube seem to be living the dream. They're happy and energetic all the time. They're playing video games all day, right? They have their own houses, fancy cars, and get sent rad press drops. It's the dream. But, and there is a really big but, what we're not seeing is how much damn work goes into making gaming content creation a full-time career. There's a lot of information on the internet about how to turn gaming content creation into your full-time gig. For this episode of Tech Girl Talks, though, I didn't want to tell you how to do it, but rather share the very real lived experiences of someone who is a full-time content creator. And not just someone, but rather a globally successful content creator with a community in the millions.
Hello, so I'm Clare Siobhan. I am a British YouTuber. I primarily make gaming videos. I've done it for probably coming up to 6 years now, I would say. My main channel has 1.9 million subscribers. And I also run a second channel, which is primarily used to house my streaming content and more variety stuff. And I also stream on Twitch, usually about 4 days a week as well. So pretty much running a full-time Twitch channel and a full-time YouTube channel is my main job.
The truth about gaming content creation is that for every Claire, there is about 100 to 200 people regularly uploading videos for the same amount of time, not being able to crack more than 50 views. YouTube, Twitch, and content creation in general is hard. There's no guaranteed checkbox for success. Which is why I'm always a little bit freaked out when I hear about wannabe content creators going full time. Many times these creators haven't got more than maybe 1,000 followers on Twitter or more than 200 subs on YouTube. Sometimes they're streaming to maybe 10 or 20 viewers on Twitch, yet for some reason, they're all in. This is even more terrifying in developing regions where socioeconomic factors mean your audience is already limited. I remember a few years back, a colleague of mine quit his job to take on esports shoutcasting full time in South Africa, where, and I can say this as someone whose full-time job is literally esports broadcasting, there were maybe one or two big events a year and no real way to earn a livable wage without branching into Europe or the States for work. This colleague was adamant that big things were coming. Fast forward a few months, one client who ghosted everyone when invoices were presented, and said colleague was in masses of debt, selling his car, and back on the job market. Freelancing or being your own boss, no matter the industry, is tough. So why do gaming content creators choose to take on the stress of this lifestyle? What is the motivation, and when do they decide to go all in?
So I actually just looked at my videos, and it's 7 years ago now that I uploaded my first YouTube video. I was working for Xbox. I originally worked in an agency and then ended up going in-house for Xbox, running from kind of an EMEA point of view, their social media. So it was less like granular, local accounts and more all-up campaigns around games. So stuff like Halo, Forza, the titles that Xbox publish. We were working for the social media campaigns for them and then rolling them out across the EMEA regions. I really enjoyed that job. I did love it a lot. And a part of that was working with influencers in each region to help them support our social campaigns for the games. And kind of while I was doing that, I was realizing that a lot of the skill sets that these influencers had, I also had. So I already could do video editing. I already had video and equipment, just because to get to the point where I was working in-house at Xbox, you end up having to do a bunch of other on the ground stuff anyway. So I kind of did learn to video edit, and I knew how to use Photoshop for thumbnails and all that kind of thing. The only skill set that I didn't have was the front of camera one, because I was just really nervous in front of camera. I hate the sound of my own voice, still do actually. So taking the step to actually make videos was a really scary step for me. But I was kind of like, if they can do it, then I can do it too. And I actually got support from a YouTuber at the time who I'm now married to, who's now my husband. And he kind of really was just pushing me to just give it a go. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. So I started uploading YouTube videos on the side, the first one 7 years ago. And from that point onwards, it started to get to the point where my monthly earnings from YouTube were growing. I grew a lot during the Pokemon Go kind of era as well. And it just kind of got to the point where I couldn't do my full time job and do YouTube videos. I was getting home from work and editing until maybe 2 a.m. in the morning, and then waking up at 7 to go back to work again. And both jobs were kind of struggling. It stopped being just a nice kind of income on the side and started to become I have to really make a decision here. But I didn't make that decision to leave until I'd say I'd earned more from YouTube than from my Xbox job for about 4, 5, 6 months. And that is when I spoke to my boss, kind of let him know what was going on. I had a really supportive boss. And he was just like, just give it a go. If it doesn't work out, you've always got another position back here. So I was quite lucky in that I had a really good safety net. And that's something I've always speak to people about when they say, oh, I just want to quit my job and start YouTube. Most people who go into YouTube may never make the job profitable. And I think it's kind of quite scary to go into it from that point of view. I would wait until it's profitable, until it's, something that you can actually rely on before I'd ever take the full-time step. But I think that's not something that a lot of people want to hear, particularly when there's so many young people nowadays that really want to do YouTube full time and see it as like a very glamorous job. But that at least was the way I went into it. And I'm kind of glad that I had the real world experience of a full time job before going into YouTube, because I think it helps a lot with the discipline that you do need to do a full time job on a YouTube channel.
I'm going to quickly just go off topic here and give you some background. If you don't know Clare Siobhan, and if you don't, I'm presuming you've been living under a rock. Clare is married to Ali A, one of the most successful gaming YouTubers globally. It really actually has no relevance on the conversation we're having as we're focusing on her channel's career and success, but she does mention Ali a few times in her insights, and I thought it was just a nice to know before we continue, so you have some background. Got it? Good. The thing about gaming content creation is that it is so broad. You've got hundreds of games you can choose from. You can choose to do competitive guides, tips and tricks, reaction videos, live streams, and then you can choose to focus your efforts on a specific platform like YouTube or Twitch or now even TikTok. I think the biggest successes for gaming content creators has been focusing their primary efforts on one platform and then branching out to others as they go, but retaining a focus on that primary spot. However, there has to be some concerns. If you're old enough to remember MySpace, you probably know how quickly these platforms can change or even die, basically in a blink of an eye. Claire explains why she recently began streaming alongside her primary YouTube channel and also addresses some of the concerns I've mentioned around going all in on one platform.
So I'd always kind of looked at streaming, and there was a lot about streaming that I really liked. I feel like when you watch someone streaming, you know them a lot better than with YouTube. With YouTube, it is an edited version of yourself. You can make mistakes in recording. You can word things awkwardly and re-record them. There's a lot of control with YouTube. You don't get that with streaming, so in that way, it's a lot scarier. But when I listen to people streaming, I genuinely feel like I know them much more as a person. You don't see this really animated, high energy version of them. You see kind of like a more chill, almost like a more of a friend. So I did really like that part of streaming, but the timing that it takes to streaming always put me off so much because, if someone's going to subscribe to you, there is almost like an expectation that you are going to be ready to stream for them several days a week. And that for me was always like, I knew I couldn't do that. I was editing all of my own videos. I was uploading every single day. I was prepping for when we were going away a lot because we did travel pre-COVID quite a lot with our jobs. And that's the part that I actually really miss and I really loved as well. So there was absolutely no time for me to fit streaming in. And then COVID happened. And for more or less 2 years, we've not traveled anywhere. We've not been on a plane, and obviously we were also kind of isolating at home. And I live with my husband who does the exact same thing as me, so that helped out a lot in terms of just having somebody to talk to. But all of my family live like 5 hours away, so I felt very isolated during COVID. I felt very lonely because both of us were working such long hours anyway. That I kind of actually started streaming just for the social benefits. And I still really, really enjoy streaming from that point of view. If I'm ever feeling low and I start streaming, genuinely talking to my community does lift me up a lot. I find myself just laughing and joking. And that social interaction I really missed during COVID. So I kind of use streaming as a way to both for myself get that social interaction, but also my audience. I started to realize really were benefiting from those streams as well. Because instead of just getting one 30-minute video a day or every other day, they were getting me chatting with them for, 2, 3, 4 hours a day. So I think it just turned into this really beneficial relationship for both myself and my audience and me, kind of like a symbiotic way that we were getting that social interaction during COVID. Now we're kind of coming out of COVID. I'm still streaming, probably not, as many hours as before. I was doing 5 days a week when I first started, alongside doing YouTube every day. Now I'm probably at 3 to 4 days a week, but it's gonna be I don't know, streaming's difficult because the hours are difficult if you wanna do YouTube full time, and I will always see YouTube as my bread and butter. Streaming is always a side for me, like Twitch. YouTube comes first and Twitch comes afterwards. But it's something that I can see myself still doing for a while just because I it has such a beneficial impact on my mood and my happiness, and also my audience really like it too. YouTube almost feels too big to fail. It's been around for so long. I remember when it was a completely different looking site, and the most viewed video was that guitar guy who with the hat on, who never even showed his face. Like that's the YouTube that I remember, and my YouTube account is pretty old as well. If I go to my like about, I think yeah, I joined YouTube on March 2006. So it's been around for so long that it kind of feels like it will always be a constant. But I think recently having diversified a little bit to Twitch does kind of alleviate that risk for myself a little bit. Although I actually find it difficult having two completely separate channels almost. I'd rather have all my streaming on YouTube because then all of my subscribers and all of my followers sit under one umbrella. Whereas right now they're kind of under two. But like you said, if there was ever an issue with YouTube, anything happening with YouTube, it's always good to have that Twitch on the side. But I don't know. I can't. YouTube's weathered so many storms of people being like, we're going to set up a competitor, we're going to leave this site. But it's not easy to set up a YouTube. It's not easy to have that many servers and host that many videos. I don't think another competitor would just be able to sweep in and kind of steal YouTube away. So it feels kind of like a safe bet. The more worrying thing with YouTube is the YouTube algorithm. That has changed so much in the 7 years that I've been doing YouTube. And every time it changes, you have to kind of reinvent yourself and reinvent your videos in order to stay successful on the platform. So, in the time that I've been on YouTube, it's gone from videos that are kind of like 5 minutes being the norm and the algorithm liking them to no, we want you to post 30-minute videos and 40-minute videos because we want the long watch time, to we want you to post, consistently every single day, to you don't have to post every day, but every video has to be, hit this many people's eyes, or else we're not going to suggest your videos anymore. So you very much live and die on YouTube by the algorithm and by the suggested like content. Your subscribers don't really mean very much anymore. All that really matters is getting your videos in suggested, and that is a thumbnail, a title, and how long you can get people to watch your videos for. And the other big thing that's changed whilst I've been on YouTube is I used to be really successful as a variety channel. So I could post Pokemon Go a couple of days a week and then switch out to another video. To another game. Like, I don't know. I've posted Call of Duty on my channel before. I've posted Alien Isolation, Outlast. I've posted like horror next to Slime Rancher, and there's never been that much of an issue. People are just like enjoy variety content. I don't think you can do that on YouTube anymore. I think you have to specialize in one thing and one thing only, or else the algorithm is just going to absolutely butcher you. You really see now that the only variety channels that still do well are the huge channels. It's like the Markiplier and the Jacksepticeye of this world. Whereas most gaming channels now will have to pick one game and kind of focus on that. And for me, that game ended up being Sims, which was great initially because I've played Sims since Sims 1. I really enjoy the game. But one thing that I really liked about YouTube and my original like channel format is being able to play whatever I want, and my audience would, be happy to watch it, and it would be just like fed to them through suggestion or through their subscriber inbox. Whereas that's just not the case with YouTube anymore. I have to keep playing Sims or else my views suffer. Which is actually one thing that's been great for Twitch because I do play variety on Twitch, and it's helped me at least scratch that itch of I don't just want to play one game. I never went into YouTube wanting to play just one game. I have a really broad kind of interest in video games, and it's difficult being tied to just one game on my YouTube channel, I would say.
I want to make bucket loads of cash. Not something Claire said when we were chatting about what got her into gaming content creation, and not often something anyone else who has turned their passion for games into a full-time job says either. Which is interesting because these days it is the main reason I hear when someone tells me they want to go into gaming content creation. I also sometimes think it is the main reason many fail. If this is something you want to pursue, it might be necessary to tweak your why.
I've always been interested in video games since, getting Game Boy Color as a kid, since me and my brother got an N64, and since playing on the SNES at my friend's grandma's house when we were younger. So video games has just always been an interest of mine. And I knew when I was in university doing I did marketing, public relations in uni. I knew that I wanted to specialize specifically in video games because I wanted to work on video games campaigns because that was my interest. I'd find that way more interesting than working on marketing for other products. So I knew that's where I wanted to go. I even did my dissertation on video games and social media, despite being heavily asked not to do that because there wasn't enough research in that area. I wouldn't be able to reference anyone. I was like, I'm not doing this to get a good grade. I'm doing this to make the connections that I'm going to need to get my job, which ended up working out great. And I can remember during like the Modern Warfare 2 days on YouTube, like kind of the glory days of Call of Duty, and people were posting sniper montages and just these insane gameplays. I used to just love watching them. And I tried to set my camera up one day to film my screen, like no screen capture, just like literally a digital camera to try and film my screen. And so I could try and make videos as well. But I think my brother walked in and was just like, what are you doing? And I was always way too embarrassed to do it. So it kind of took getting like a confidence more in my job, and just confidence you tend to get the older you get, the more you grow up, I guess, that helped me actually give it a go for the first time. But I'd say it was always something on my radar. It was always an interest I had. It was just pushing myself to kind of take that step. And yeah, I didn't go into YouTube being like, I want to make loads of money or I want a really big, successful channel. It was more just, can I do this? Will this give me a bunch of confidence? Which it did. And I don't know, just always fulfilling that kind of younger dream of wondering if I could make YouTube videos too.
While the goal shouldn't be monetary, gaming content creation on the likes of YouTube and Twitch can make you money, and in some cases be very lucrative. Later in this episode, we'll break down how hard it is to actually produce regular content that people engage with enough to earn you a livable wage. But before we do that, Claire gives a really good breakdown of the different ways someone can earn money on a platform like YouTube.
So when you first run a YouTube channel, I mean, it's changed now. I think you need 100,000 subscribers to apply for monetization. But when I started on YouTube, you didn't. You would just start earning as soon as you linked your AdSense. And obviously, YouTube will feed advertisements onto your videos. You can decide whether you want kind of long form ads, short form ads, where you want your advertisements, but it will pick the advertisements and place them based on, your audience's interest. So it's targeted ads. When I first started, adding adverts to my channel, I would be earning like £1 a month, £1, like £2.50 a month. And slowly over time that grew until I had months where I'm like, oh, I'm earning £10 a month. I'm earning like £100 a month. And that was when things started like, oh, I'm actually this money is starting to go up slowly over time. But obviously it takes a really long time to be able to build up income on YouTube, even harder now that you need 100K subs. Because honestly, 100,000, is it 100,000 or is it 10,000? Either way, that is not easy to grow. I think Ali said it took him 2 years or something to go from 100, what, like his first 10 subs to his first like 1,000 subs. Like it's a really slow process. So if you go into YouTube being like, YouTubers make loads of money, I want to make loads of money on YouTube, you're going to really struggle because it's difficult to make money. And I think one thing that people don't always appreciate is with a gaming channel as well, you tend to upload regularly. So over the course of several years, you build up a really big back catalog. And a lot of the money you'll make is actually from your back catalog. So if you've kind of only just started and you've got 10 videos, that is, it's going to be really difficult to make money. Whereas if you've been going for a long time and you have a back catalog of thousands of videos, that helps you out a lot. And that's kind of your, your foundation. You want to keep putting out good new videos, but you'll start to have this kind of safety net again of a back catalog of videos that people will watch. And then the other way that you can make money as a YouTuber is through sponsorships and deals. It's kind of a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, it's a great way to supplement your income, especially when you're a smaller creator and you can't guarantee on YouTube as being your primarily income source. Once you start to get sponsorships, that can be a really nice way to just, add a few each month to make sure you're making enough to get by. But your audience don't always like it when they just feel like they're being sold to all the time. So I would say that if you're ever taking on sponsorships and deals, it should be something that you believe in, something that you trust, and something that you think your audience will like as well. But it can be a really nice way to add income on the side too. I'm trying to think of other ways that you do make money through YouTube. The other thing as well that after a couple of years on YouTube, I got approached by like an agency that I can then sign up to, like a management company, that can help bring me in deals and also set up networking deals as well. So the advertisements that my YouTube channel serves are done through a network, which means they can be more targeted, which means they'll be worth, more money to advertisers. So you do tend to get a better ad rate if you're signed up to a good network. And then YouTube also has something that's kind of less talked about, but it has a YouTube preferred. There is different tiers to this, but basically, if YouTube has seen your channel has been live for a while, it's trustworthy. You're not breaking rules. You're not putting up copyrighted videos. You're not, you in the back end of YouTube, you say what's in your video. Does it have offensive content? Does it have controversial issues? Does it swearing in it? If you can consistently say no, my video is clean, and YouTube checks your video, knows, yep, she's, they're telling the truth, then you will eventually get the chance to be put into a YouTube preferred ad system as well, which means the adverts that you get are better quality ads, so you will earn more money on them as well. Which is why you kind of notice a lot of YouTubers have switched to more family friendly content. They've switched to not swearing, just because it will ensure that they get, their channels will serve better ads too. So those are kind of your primary income revenues through YouTube. And the other thing I guess you can start to set up on the side once you've been running YouTube for a while is a merch as well. But merch is a really, really difficult way to make money. It's I think a lot of people and some YouTubers I know, like the Pauls, for example, make a lot of money through their merch. But for most YouTubers, merch is kind of it's a nice to have. It's great for your audience. And it's fun, like, as seeing your own branding and your own designs on merchandise is really, really, like, it's a cool part of being a YouTuber, but it's definitely not going to be a way that you're going to generate a lot of income, I would say. So they're your main, like, sources of revenue on YouTube. And then Twitch obviously is a little bit different, because although YouTube does have membership, which is people who can pay an additional fee each month to subscribe to your YouTube channel and get extra content, I don't really use that feature. Some people make really good money on memberships, but I don't actually use that feature very much. But that kind of payment system is much more accepted, I would say, on Twitch. So obviously on Twitch, people pay to subscribe to your channel. They pay to support you for a month. They can also gift subscriptions to other people in the chat, which I would actually say for most YouTubers is where, sorry, for most Twitch streamers is where a good bulk of their income does come from as well. It's the gifted subscriptions. You can also obviously still have the same deals for brands on Twitch that you would do on YouTube. And then people can also donate to you on Twitch, or kind of use bits to have highlighted messages, or to talk kind of directly to you in chat, because you obviously will reply to everything. You will reply to as much as you can anyway, but if you've got a big audience on Twitch, it's very hard to see individual messages. But bits messages come up on a separate feed, which ensures that you can see them and, kind of read them out or engage with them as well. Um, but I would say from my experience on Twitch and YouTube, obviously my YouTube channel is much bigger and it's been going on for a much longer amount of time. I think I would say streaming feels harder to make money on than YouTube. I think a lot of people think it would be the other way around, because you just stream all day on Twitch and you sit there for kind of like 8 hours and can just stream all day and people will just subscribe to you all day. But I think the hours that you put in on streaming versus on YouTube are much higher. And I think that's why YouTube will always be my bread and butter, just because the amount of time and energy I can put in on YouTube versus on Twitch. If I spend a day on YouTube versus Twitch, I will make more money from YouTube than I ever would be able to from Twitch. So for me, that's why I will always keep YouTube as my bread and butter. It's just a more efficient way, I would say, of generating income compared to a Twitch streamer.
Seeing as we're talking about money, now seems like a good time to segue. I don't actually make any money doing Tech Girl Talks. My full time earning gig is esports broadcasting, but I do have some personal brand partners who give me the support to allow me to pursue some other passions like producing, editing, scripting, and hosting a niche podcast series on esports and gaming once in a while. So I'm going to give them a little plug quickly. Please bear with me. Vox, a South African ISP, has recently introduced gaming essentials to their fiber to home clients. Their gaming quality of service separates your gaming traffic from your regular internet needs by giving priority of bandwidth to specific home devices. So you don't have to worry about lag because your significant other is having a Tiger King binge on Netflix in another room. You can find out more information at vox.co.za. I recently also redid my home office and I have this funky like pink and turquoise color scheme going, and I spent a few minutes tweaking all my Logitech G peripherals that have light sync technology. So now everything is matchy-matchy. Many Logitech G products come with light sync, which basically gives you a host of dynamic and customizable illumination profiles that can be synchronized to content like video games or your specific color scheme. If you think you need to get in on the RGB action, go shop over at logitechg.com. Okay, back to our discussion around gaming content creation. I do think most of us don't really realize how damn hard it is to make a success out of gaming on YouTube or Twitch. Don't believe me? Here's an example of an average day in the life of a successful gaming YouTuber.
My normal days have changed a little bit throughout the years. When I was editing all of my own YouTube videos, most of my time was spent editing, like the vast majority of my time. I think a lot of people think you play for maybe play for an hour and then edit for an hour, or even play for 2 hours and edit for 1 hour. No, it's completely the other way around. You play for a very small amount of time to get the content in comparison to the amount of time it takes to edit. I don't think this used to be the case. And I think there are still some spaces where the more unedited kind of raw footage works. But in general, on YouTube, you are trying to get people to watch your video for as long as possible. Watch time is incredibly important. And the way that you have a long watch time is to keep eyeballs on your screen. And the way you do that is to make the content as exciting as possible. Make it so that people don't want to click off because there's stuff going on all the time. And the way you tend to do that isn't through the recording, it's through the editing. Editing is so important. So if I was, for example, if I'm going to record a Sims YouTube video, it probably takes me between an hour and a half and 2 hours of gameplay. And that will be for a 20 to 30-minute video. And then to turn that into a video that I would upload, I'd say the edit is probably 2 to 3 hours, if not more. So that was taking up a lot of my time. So I switched kind of last year to hiring an editor, which meant I could spend more time on the content creation, more time on the ideation as well, because you don't just immediately open the video game and know what you're going to record. There is a whole bit before where you have to work out what you're going to record. What is trending? What is new? What is going to show up in suggested? Is there anything going on in the real world that I can translate into my Sims videos? So, for example, Squid Game was huge last month. So, I made a video on Sims, which actually took way longer than 2 hours to record. That was a long, long recording. But I did Squid Games in Sims. And if I look at my videos over the past month, that one has done significantly better than all of the others. So you can't just rely on opening the game, playing, and hoping you're going to have a video at the end of it that's going to be successful. You've got to really look at what people in your space are doing, what is interesting in your space, what can you pull from real life, and work out a plan for how to put that into a video. So because I've got an editor now, I can spend more time on the ideation side of things. But my editor's actually out at the moment. So this week, half of my time has been spent editing, which I don't usually do. So I've tried to make the streams that I've done this week be streams that I can then finish and edit into a YouTube video, which I don't normally do. But yeah, so my back to the question. My days this week are a little bit different, but I tend to wake up in the morning. I will have a check of all the videos that if I've got a video from my editor, I will give that a check over, make sure that's uploaded, get all the back end of YouTube filled out, all the ads ready, all the description ready for that. And then I need to make the thumbnails for my videos. And the way I make my thumbnails is I go back in game, I get my Sims to pose, I take screenshots, then I move that into Photoshop, try and make the most exciting thumbnail I can do. So, for example, sometimes on my Sims videos, I will edit like an iPhone conversation, and use that as the thumbnail because people will see the iPhone and they're like, "Oh, what's going on here?" It's a Sims, but I can see an iPhone text conversation there as well. So you've got to try and make your thumbnail as like clickable as possible. I spend a lot of time on my thumbnails. After that, I will do my recording for the day. So usually I eat lunch while I record, and that's probably about, 2 hours gone there as well. Sometimes before I record the video, I've got to do a bit of prep. So if do I need to download a new mod for this? Do I need to update on my mods in game? Do I need to if I'm doing a video where I'm, for example, focusing on mods, do I need to get all the tabs open and ready to record that? So finish my video and then I will switch to streaming. So usually I will stream for somewhere between, it tends to be about 3 to 5 hours. So that's kind of the second half of my day. First half of the day dedicated to YouTube, the second half is dedicated to streaming. I usually come off stream and it's like, 7, 8 o'clock at night. So we tend to just stop and eat, and that will be like Ali and I's time together to have dinner, catch up, watch something on Netflix or Amazon Prime, and then kind of wake up and do the same thing over and over again. Wednesdays are the one day that's different because I don't always stream on Wednesdays, and that's usually when I book calls in. So it's not just kind of you sat in isolation. You usually have to have calls with your management, calls with any deals that you're doing to, kind of go through everything and check that they're happy with approving everything that you've recorded so far, which you'd have to record ahead of time as well. It's talking to your merch team. It is talking to if you've got any, talking to your accountant, all of that kind of thing. So all of that I try and do on one day of the week, which is Wednesday. So it is definitely not kind of just sitting playing games all day. It is a lot of prep. It's a lot of stuff off camera that people don't see. And it is a lot of like discipline. If I don't get my video recorded on a morning before I stream, I'm probably not going to get time to get it done, which means I don't have a video to send my editor, which means I'm a day behind on videos on YouTube because I won't be able to upload the next day. So you've got to be very disciplined. And that's how I split my day into YouTube versus Twitch. I'm sure other people will do things differently, but that's just what works best for me. And usually by the afternoon, I'm awake enough to play a game on Switch whilst also kind of talking to my chat and being super animated for like, 3, 5 hours, which isn't easy. And I can't do that in a morning. So I have to spend all morning waking up so I can do it in the afternoon. But that's how I split my day. And it is very jam packed. I actually prefer my days to be jam packed and busy. I feel happier when I'm busy. If everything's going slow and I'm procrastinating, I kind of end up feeling really low and kind of unproductive, which I don't like. So I have to pack my days quite heavily. And this is just the system that I figured out works for me. The way this system falls apart is if I ever have to go away, which currently with COVID isn't too much of an issue. But once we start traveling again, just for like personal holidays or for my job, I then have to work out how I'm going to record ahead of time and make sure I've got videos covered for while I'm gone and still fit it in my current schedule, which is where things get a little bit tricky and where we end up having to finish work at kind of like 7 and then go back to work at 9 and do another couple of hours before going to bed just to make sure we've got enough content recorded.
So, what we know now is that gaming content creation is a job. There's so much more than just playing games. You're the star of the show, the director, the editor, the camera operator, the lighting expert, the finance manager, the sales manager. You're basically running your own business and you're the product as well.
Some days I really struggle with the YouTube recording section because it's booting up the same game that I've been consistently playing for, several years now. The game for me, the version of Sims I play is a super heavily modded version. So that means if one mod is out of date, I have to go through all my files, figure out which one it is. I'm probably going to get crashes, which I did get this week. I lost about an hour and a half of recording. And Also, like I said, I'm a variety gamer. There's people that have been running a primarily Sims YouTube channel for their entire career, and they're more than happy to do that. It doesn't bother them. For me, I never plan to just play one game forever, and it's not even the game that I would play in my spare time. I mean, I like The Sims, but off stream, I'm an off YouTube. I'm playing New World and like Pokemon Unite. They're like the two games that I'm playing the most at the moment. But I can't play them really on my Sims. Sorry, on my YouTube or Twitch because they just don't fit the audience that I've built. So sometimes it's kind of difficult building booting up a game that I don't always want to play every day. But kind of whenever I'm kind of dreading playing it, I kind of am like, well, most people, and I did this for a long time. I don't always want to get up every day when I was working for Xbox and work on the same campaign that I might not be enjoying as much as the one that I previously did, or that the next campaign might be great, but this one right now is at the granular stage. It's difficult. It's calls on an evening. Like no job, you're gonna go in and enjoy what you do for 8 hours every single day. So I just kind of you just kind of got to get through it and realize that you're still very privileged to be able to do what you do, to be able to just, you know, get out of bed and walk into your studio. I don't need to get on a train or or drive for 2 hours anymore, which is what I used to do when I worked at Xbox initially. I used to have 4 hours of commuting a day, and I don't have that anymore. So I've just kind of got to take the good with the bad, and just sort of get on with it, I guess.
I've not achieved anywhere near the level of success that Claire has, and we do very different things in the content creation space. But one of my own personal struggles has always been the idea of having to always be on. It doesn't matter what I'm going through privately, when the camera is on, I need to be on my A game. And I think the heaviness that can have on you mentally is often overlooked when discussions around gaming content creation are had.
I know if I was having like a bad day, like people's moods go up and down. If you have a bad day and you're working in an office, it kind of like it sucks. But I could just have put my headphones on and just kind of zone out and kind of get on with it in that way. The one thing I will say about YouTube is if you're having a bad day, you you've got to be on camera. And that for me sometimes is very difficult. There'll be times where I don't upload for a couple of days and it's just because you're already feeling low. The idea of getting on a camera and being the super animated version of yourself is very difficult. And I think anyone with a role on camera probably relates to this. Like, people that are doing casting or presenting, they're having to sit in front of a camera on days where they just maybe are really struggling to even be social and definitely to be on camera. So that part I think is the one thing that's very different to my other job is I can't just have like a chill day and have a day where I can just be low energy because you just can't really do that if you do YouTube. But other than that, like, yeah, like I said before, I just push through it for the most part because I'm still I know that I'm privileged to be able to do what I'm doing.
There's also a very real concern when you enter the gaming content creation space that you're putting yourself on display. People will love you or hate you, and there is literally nothing you can do to change their minds. They'll believe they know everything about you. And also, I mean, sometimes folks online, they've got a screen, they can be really mean. Putting yourself out there for public scrutiny isn't easy.
This is one way that Twitch has been pretty good for me because I went on a day this week and be like, I'm just gonna let you guys know I'm feeling hormonal or whatever. And my Twitch stream are like, oh my gosh, me too. Claire, it's totally fine. Take a day off if you ever need to. Or like being able to have that one-on-one conversation with people and people seeing you as a real human being, I think that is great. Streaming is amazing for that. You can't do that on YouTube in the same way. And I think, there's whenever I see, like a YouTube channel scandal versus a Twitch scandal, the fact that a Twitch streamer can just turn on the camera and give their point of view, and the audience already have, like know that they are a human being and have kind of humanized them to a big degree because they've had that very close relationship with them. I think that is one way that Twitch is great because I see the thing is what's really difficult, and it's a really difficult skill to build as a YouTuber or as an influencer, and I'm still trying to build this skill. I'm not there yet. Is 99.9% of the interactions and the way that your audience interact with you are incredibly positive. Your most people are just so genuinely nice, and I'm very lucky that my audience, particularly so, go on streams and I see this. My audience are so proud to be part of this community with me that we've built together. They are genuinely so supportive and lovely with me, and I'm the same with them. And it's just a really positive experience. But you will always get like it's impossible to be successful and not build up a few people that are haters along the way. And I don't really like the term haters, but it just when I say that, I just mean people that kind of want to drag you down, sometimes for valid reasons, sometimes for completely invalid reasons. There are some people out there that just thrive off negativity, and they tend to group together in very negative circles, and all of them just kind of thrive off this negativity. And it's not just myself I see this with every influencer that has a following will have these people as well. And it can be very difficult to try and, focus on the positive, because just human nature, we really hone in on these negative comments. And I have been through phases before where all I have done is sort out this negativity, and it's just made me feel worse and worse and worse. And you can kind of get a very skewed mindset where you think that that 0.1% is actually like 90%. And you can really go through a very toxic mindset if you seek out this negativity. And the people that are negative tend to be so loud as well. And I've definitely had phases, in the past couple of years where, as my channel has grown and grown and grown, and the thing is, as my audience has grown, both in terms of size, but also they've grown as people. Like, they've gone from being, a young audience, whereas they may have grown into teenagers, and suddenly they're looking at my content and they're kind of angry that it's still focused on when they were, it's still aimed at them when they were a couple of years younger. And they're kind of angry, like, why is the content feeling so childish? And instead of kind of realizing, no, I'm just getting older, I'm not the target audience for this anymore, they kind of take it very personally and like, no, this YouTube has changed, and all this kind of thing. So they end up getting very like, I think people tend to grow out of your content, and rather than it just being a happy thing of looking back and being like, oh, I used to watch them, but I don't watch them so much anymore. Maybe once every now and again for nostalgia. They get kind of in some, most people don't do this, but a very tiny percentage of them will get very like almost angry and look back in anger almost, rather than realizing that they just moved on. And I think that has happened with some people who've watched my channel, which is absolutely, fair enough. However they want to feel about things is valid. But I've just kind of learned that that audience that get very angry and hateful, they seek out each other, but they're also incredibly loud. And I don't let myself fall for the trap anymore of focusing on what they say and letting myself get sucked into their negativity, because I let it influence my channel greatly at one point. And all that happened is my channel suffered, my mental health suffered, and I'm like, I'm not going to allow myself to do that anymore. So now I seek out positivity. I try and promote positivity myself. And I'm in such a better like headspace for it. I think it's a really difficult skill to learn to, not seek out that negativity, not search your name, not look for forums where people are saying cruel things about you, because you can't stop it. And, you just have to understand that most people don't feel like this. Most people are just, happy, positive people. And that's the way that most of my interactions have been. And so, yeah, I think you've got to try and ignore it, because as well, the thing that I found really frustrating is you can write a comment and say that somebody has done something online that is completely untrue, but people take it as gospel. And I think one thing I realized when I was reading the things that people were saying about me that weren't true, they were kind of, I don't know. It's so much more exciting to believe that I am this completely different person in real life, and I'm actually, a horrible person. And like, wouldn't that be so exciting and so amazing if this person pretended to be so happy and so positive, but was actually like this really toxic, evil person? Like, that's an exciting story. The reality of life is, in real life, I'm the same as I am online, just, a little bit more dialed down. That's not fun. That's not exciting. So people want to believe this, really extreme version of stories because it's so much more exciting. Reality is boring. But reality is reality. So I just have to just ignore it. It's frustrating when people literally write lies about you and things you've done and said, but you've just got to remember that it's going to come with the territory, and there's nothing, it's always going to crop up. So you've just got to kind of push it out of your mind and keep focusing on yourself, your channel, your community, and your business.
The concept of internet fame is a weird one. Even someone with 100 followers on Twitter who gets a trending tweet can easily find themselves sucked into the hype. Social media and these platforms we play on are designed to feed that need we have to be seen, to be heard, and I suppose to be popular. So when you start reaching these mad levels of popularity, when you've got more than 1 million subs on YouTube like Claire, I'd presume it can be pretty easy to lose yourself in all of that. When I decided to do this specific episode, I knew I wanted Claire to be the person who shared her insights. There's actually a valid reason for that. I've met Claire in real life, and when I met her, I knew she was a YouTuber, but I didn't know the success she had on YouTube. She was someone I actually reached out to again in real life in a moment where I felt deeply uncomfortable and insecure, and I did not know her at all. She was immediately supportive. I felt we connected, and the person I got to know was very much what you see online: empathetic, fun, caring, and this was all towards someone she did not know at all. We met up again in real life a few months later, and despite her growing success on YouTube, she was still exactly as I remembered. I'm not going to share more of our personal story too much because it's just that personal. But the reason I wanted her on Tech Girl Talks was because for someone so immensely successful, she really has stayed, and in my opinion, she has stayed grounded. There's no flash, there's no diva behavior from her. She's a very real person with a kind heart and a softness, and she has deep feelings towards things. And I wondered, how do you keep that when you're faced with so many people invested in your life and the pressures that something like fame throws at you? I mean, in short, how the hell do you not get caught up in this weird obsession with chasing clout that the internet seems to push on us daily?
I guess the one, no, there's a few influencers. I think Ali is a really, really good influence because, I've had success on YouTube, but mine absolutely compares in the success that to what Ali's had. Ali is genuinely one of the most successful creators in the world. And he is so good at what he does, and he's been doing it for so long. Yet he is just the most grounded, incredible person. Like, he is just he's just never let it get to his head. He's never, gone down a toxic route because it just genuinely isn't who he is as a person. And I don't think it's who I am as a person as well. But I think definitely having, the influence of somebody like Ali has helped out a great deal. We're both very similar people. Like, the things in life that matter to us aren't, they're not really materialistic things. The things that matter to us are our family and, our pets. They are literally, every weekend, all we want to do is find a new dog walk, and then we'll try and work out how we can see our family and friends. We don't really live like this crazy like bougie lifestyle. We just are trying to build a future for ourselves and spend a bunch of time with our family, our friends, and our dogs. And that, I guess, it's easier to stay grounded when those are the things that matter to you the most anyway. We're both incredibly close with our family. We were both raised in a really similar way, I think, which is, very much in a close knit family environment. So we always just want to default back to that. And that is kind of the family we want to create for ourselves as well. So I just think we both genuinely find happiness in, the more small, like the more wholesome things in life, like dog walks and spending time together on an evening watching like some show on Netflix. And, that has helped out a lot. But I just think I I just think Ali's fine. I'm just gushing about Ali, which is what I always tend to do when I talk about this. But he has just handled his success with such grace that it's hard not to just want to follow in his footsteps and do and be influenced by him and how lovely and genuine he is. He's made me a better person for knowing him. I think, I was never a toxic person. I was never a bad person, but I think I had a lot of, I viewed myself very negatively because of, whatever past in my like my past school life and all that kind of thing, and I kind of viewed the world quite negatively as well. I kind of, you know honed in on negative things about myself and the way that I thought other people perceived me. And Ali was really good at just having such a more positive mindset of, you can't change things. all you can do is be positive, looking for the best in other people and always seeing the best of every interaction he had. That I think I just absorbed that from him. And I think it's one of the best gifts like anyone can ever give you is helping you develop into a better person. And I'd say he's probably said similar things about me. I think we both helped each other out a lot. And I think now it's given us a really strong base to make sure that we always stay grounded, always, share our successes together and know kind of what future we want to build as well. And whether that does include YouTube or whether it doesn't include YouTube, I think the learnings that we've you know, the way that YouTube's helped us grow as people and the learnings that we've had from the platform will always stay with us. But I don't know if it's a platform that we want to share the whole rest of our lives and the whole rest of our journey with. We're quite private, believe it or not, despite the fact that all of our lives are online. We are very careful in what we share because I think both of us both believe that every part, every, picture you share, every vlog you make, you kind of give a little piece of yourself up for the internet. So we are quite careful in what we share online, and that means I don't know where the future will lead us with YouTube. I can't imagine we'd ever want to do like a family channel or that kind of thing. So our future is a little bit uncertain, but I kind of feel confident going into it because we're both going into it together.
You've been listening to Tech Girl Talks, a playlist original. A huge thank you to Clare Siobhan for giving up her time to add insights to this episode. As you heard, she's extremely busy, and her making space in her schedule to ultimately do a friend a solid actually means the world to me, and I'm hoping you appreciate the time she sacrificed as well. I'll add links to all her channels in the show notes, so if you've not yet checked them out, you can. As usual, if you've got this far in the podcast, be sure to give the episode a review, and I'd be ever so grateful if you shared it with your friends. There's 2 more episodes on the way for season 2, so make sure you're following or subscribed on your chosen podcast platform so you don't miss them.